Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am being joined by Gabi Day, who is the CEO and founder of Bright Body, and we are going to be discussing the clean skin and hair care swaps to try right now. We have a very exciting giveaway that Bright Body are offering our readers, so you must listen to hear more about it so that we can explain who it's for and what it will bring to you. Tell us more and share her story. Welcome to those who are joining. Nice to see you. Just connecting now. Hello, Gabby.
Hi, Eloise. How are you?
Yes, very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I know we have a time difference, so it's middle of the day here on the East
Yep.
Coast.
Yep. Well, so lovely to be chatting with you. And I've just given a little introduction to yourself and Bright Body. But if you could start by telling us a bit about your IVF journey and what got you, well, how you started Bright
Yeah.
Body. And then we're going to be talking about clean living, clean skin, hair care, etc., which is so important to people, especially on the trying to conceive fertility journey. And you are offering our readers something rather special. So everyone listen up and Gabby will introduce herself.
Yeah, hi. I'm Gabi Day, and I'm the CEO, founder, and formulator of Bright Body and Bright Body Baby. And they're both US based. We're on the East Coast, well, sort of. We're in the Central Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. And we started almost 7 years ago to the day. So we just had our seventh business birthday on the 1st of October. And it all started because of my journey originally with chronic conditions. So I have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's a mouthful. I can do a lot of gross party
Mhm.
tricks with, my
Oh, wow.
joints. So I have, yeah, chronic joint pain issues. Basically, my body doesn't make collagen right, and it's a multi-systemic thing. I have a history of severe neurological Lyme disease from a tick. And then I also have something called POTS, which is an autonomic nervous
Mhm.
system heart related condition that often goes along with EDS and with Lyme, strangely enough. So I got the Venn diagram double whammy of those three
Wow.
things. And during my last flare, I was on, I don't know if you can see, I had a port scar in my chest. I was doing twice daily IV infusions for months on end. I was on FMLA from my job in corporate healthcare. I thought the original path was being a long-term care administrator. And then I hated it. And the
Mhm.
stress made my health conditions explode.
Wow.
And at that point, I already was good with nutrition. I was good with um, movement. I have a background in yoga and Ayurveda. And I just thought, what else can I do? I was desperate to just take better care of my whole body and look at everything I was doing holistically. So I started reading ingredient lists and went fully down that rabbit hole. I learned about basically the foundations of cosmetic formulation while I was still bedbound. I had a notebook full of scribbles and notes and reading all the scientific journal articles. And then as I started getting stronger, started experimenting in the kitchen, and it turned into a whole business. And
Wow.
then when I was 5 years in, I had my identical twin boys. So we went through a lot. We did 6 rounds of IUI. The first pregnancy was ectopic and had to be terminated. The second, I miscarried spontaneously. We did one IVF egg retrieval that ended in a failed transfer and a transfer that I miscarried. And then we did a a second retrieval, but a third transfer of one embryo, just the
Mhm.
one, and it split. So
Wow.
that's how we have our identical boys. And
What a journey.
yeah, it was quite a long time. And I knew that I was going to be higher risk for fertility related
Yeah.
issues because, especially of the EDS, I knew that recurrent miscarriage was a higher risk. Um, and I just, I had thought I had braced myself for what it might be like to try to conceive. And then, of course, I went through it. And it was a lot. So we had a total of 3 losses, 6 rounds of IUI, 3 embryo transfers, and my boys will be 2.5 this month. So I
Gosh.
started just using like the popular brands. Yes, I'm a formulator, but birth was kind of a traumatic experience. So I didn't have much bandwidth other than just buying what was at Target. But then their skin was just noticeably dry and angry and irritated. And I thought, okay, if there's ever a sign, now I need to make things for them. Now is the time. So I started formulating for them when they were 3 months old. My husband is a high school teacher and he was home for the summer. And then I launched the baby products when they were 6 months old. So that's just hit our 2 year anniversary of that. So it all came full circle, but it was all from chronic illness and then becoming a mom after infertility.
Yeah, amazing. What a story. Do you think some of these skin conditions are hereditary? Do you think anything can be passed on, or do you think it's down to kind of, well, genetics, but also the things that you use, how you live your life, what you eat, the environment you're living in, or combination?
Well, definitely Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is it's
Hmm.
genetic, but what's strange is that I'm patient zero in my
Okay.
family. We can't identify. We think it was a spontaneous mutation, but there's a 50-50 chance that my boys have hypermobile
Okay.
Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. We won't know until they're older. There are other forms of EDS that they've identified the gene responsible, but because the hypermobility type is not as life-threatening as the other types, it's more life-limiting than it is life-threatening. They haven't identified the gene. So we won't know for sure until they're older and we can do like a clinical evaluation. But I absolutely think that being better just holistically about movement, about nutrition, about stress management, and cleaning up my, overall routines around the home and with my personal care with Bright Body, I think has been all part of the recipe to I've been in remission for years. I
Amazing.
mean, I did have a POTS flare like my first postpartum period. That was quite an interesting experience that I wasn't expecting, but it's not uncommon.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I've been very healthy and strong even through the traumatic birth, preeclampsia. I recovered well. So I think that taking care of your health is really, it's a holistic, multifaceted thing. There's no one magic bullet.
Absolutely, absolutely. And how would you define clean or non-toxic sort of living and products compared to regular personal care? And why should we care? You just nodded to some of it, but tell us a bit more.
Yeah, so I always tell people there's certainly gray area in how you look at, the cleanliness of a product. It's one of these difficult areas to study because you can't just isolate this one ingredient and study it in a randomized controlled
Yeah,
trial
yeah.
because we are all exposed to so many environmental chemicals every day over the course of our lives that it would be impossible to just isolate and say, this is what this one ingredient does. So, in my opinion, when I formulate, if there's some data that shows this ingredient could be problematic, I avoid it and I just find a safer alternative. So for me, I focus on products that are free of parabens and phthalates, of course, the PFAs or the forever chemicals, the per or
Yep,
polyfluoroalkyl substances. That's a
yep.
mouthful. So packaging is important. BPA, thinking about leaching of things from plastic, also plastic production is a major pollutant for the environment as well. And people don't realize that plastic is literally made from
Mhm.
petroleum. A lot of people, we kind of forget that. We're so removed from it in our day-to-day lives. Plastic is everywhere. And then I avoid petrochemicals in general. So a lot of common emulsifiers, like if you ever see an ingredient that starts with PEG or PPG, that is derived from crude oil, from
Okay,
petroleum. But
okay.
so petroleum byproducts, I don't use sulfates, silicones,
Mhm.
parabens. I personally don't like phenoxyethanol. That's been kind of the new darling of some of the clean brands is as a preservative, but in my opinion, in order to say something is paraben free, people will switch to phenoxyethanol. But in my opinion, phenoxyethanol is often just as harmful as some of the parabens. So for me, when it comes to cleanliness, again, it's very holistic. I look at the whole formula and am I seeing any of these no-go ingredients for me on that list? I just have a lower risk tolerance threshold as far as if there's mixed data on this, how do I feel about using it? And
Mm.
it's like, well, to me, your personal care is one of the easiest controllables.
Yeah.
Um, you know, buying food, you still don't necessarily know exactly how it was grown, and we can do our best. But for
Hmm.
me, personal care is one of the easiest switches, the easiest things to control. I like to say controlling my controllables is a personal hobby. As a very type A person. So for me, it's about choosing consciously products that have been formulated with the yes ingredients and avoiding the no ingredients as much as possible. And that way we're taking better care of our health now and cumulatively. That's the other thing that makes it really hard to get clear data on the
Yeah.
safety of ingredients is that cumulative exposure.
Uh-huh, absolutely. And I just want to mention now, whilst people are watching, that you are very kindly giving away the most incredible sort of opportunity and offer to our readers, which is a $200 gift card of any of your products. Is that correct?
Yes.
For 6 months. So $200 every month for 6 months. And if you don't, am I right in saying if you don't spend them 1 month, they'll carry over?
Yep, they don't
Amazing.
expire. Hmm.
Amazing. So I urge people to head to our link in bio to find out more, to enter for this fabulous opportunity. Clean living is something that I have been through, especially with, well, I suffer from chronic urticaria, but also
Mm-hmm.
from preparing for IVF and fertility, which
Oh
we
yeah.
know, of course, many people watching will be doing the same. So the science, you just
Hmm.
mentioned some of the ingredients. Are synthetic ingredients always bad? They always have a bad reputation. And are natural ingredients always good?
So I love to dispel this myth because I think, you know, especially in marketing terms and just as humans living in such a complex, busy world, we want there to be an easy black and white answer. Like, this is safe, this isn't safe. I've heard a lot of people say, like to your point, are synthetics good, or
Yeah.
is natural good, or is this bad? Or the other, what I call proxy that people use is, can I pronounce it? And as much as I would love there to be a simple proxy, synthetic bad, natural good, there isn't. It really, it depends. The answer I've found the answer to most things in life, the older I get, is it
Mm.
depends. So there is nuance to choosing ingredients, and I know that that's not the answer people want to hear because it makes it harder to kind of vet ingredient lists if you're not really familiar with cosmetic formulation and cosmetic chemistry.
Yeah.
But the idea is, what is the ingredient doing in the formula? And to me, just filling as a filler to pad margins is not enough of a purpose, but
Mhm.
what is it doing? What is the risk versus benefit profile? How is it produced and derived? And then what are the alternatives? So anytime I think about or consider using an ingredient in our formulas, I have to answer all of those questions convincingly.
Yeah.
And if there's ever a risk, to me, again, this is personal care. It's not like we're talking about a prescription that you have to
Mhm.
take. I take a prescription every day for managing my blood pressure and pulse rate, which my blood pressure tends to be quite low. It's not something that's like, it's beauty, right? It's not medication, it's beauty. So it's like, why are we putting unnecessarily risky
Mhm.
ingredients when it's beauty? Like, we can do better, especially in 2024. We have so much more innovation in the cosmetic chemistry space for safer, more multi-beneficial ingredients that can replace some of the old school ones that aren't as, great.
Mhm.
So it ultimately is about the nuance of the why, the what, the why, the how of the ingredient. And we do use synthetics. We use all safe synthetics that have all been very intensely evaluated. And then it also depends on the supplier you're getting it from. So I don't ever order anything. I don't know why people do this, but they'll order things off, Alibaba or just kind of obscure places. But
Yeah.
I'm very particular about not only the ingredient, but
Yeah.
also the supplier so that everything is very thoroughly and consciously vetted for safety and performance. The
Mm-hmm.
idea is to get the best of both worlds. You get great performance without compromising on safety.
And for people who are joining and who missed it, Gabi has got exceptional skin, hair care products, etc., which you can find out more about at Brightbody through our link in bio, and is offering one of our readers the opportunity of 6 months worth of $200 credit towards any of these amazing products each month for the next 6 months, which is incredible. So thank you so much. And people should look for this offer through the link in bio and apply now. And then in terms of more
Mm-hmm,
specifics, why should we be mindful of products, like you said, about where they've originated from, the
mm-hmm.
ingredients, especially if we're trying to conceive?
Yeah, so I think I always say people who've been through fertility treatments, we are hyper aware
Yeah,
of
yeah.
everything that we're putting on our bodies. We're hyper aware of everything in the environment. And I think the first thing to do, as I said, is to focus on controlling your controllables and trying to let go of the rest. I find that people can get, and I myself had to stop my own brain from going down that rabbit hole of worrying about every little thing, because otherwise the stress can be more detrimental than
Mm,
trying to achieve some sort of perfectionism of cleanliness. So again, beauty care, personal care products is one of the easiest controllables. And in general, again, to repeat some of those classes of ingredients that I avoid is the sulfates, silicones, parabens, phthalates. Synthetic fragrance is a huge one. And I know I'm pretty sure several of your followers have heard of Dr. Natalie Crawford.
yeah,
She's a
yeah.
fertility doctor. Yeah, I really like
Mhm.
her and her podcast, and she will talk about some of the more holistic ways that you can support fertility going through treatments. And one of them, I remember being really happy that she talked about synthetic fragrance.
Really?
They're often endocrine disruptors, and
Yeah.
obviously hormones are a huge part of fertility. So I would say the first things that I would look at are preservatives
Mhm.
that can harm hormonal function. So definitely parabens, formaldehyde releasers, um, phenoxyethanol, there's some gray area on that. And then definitely synthetic fragrance, which is unfortunately everywhere. It's
Mhm.
very common that brands will just write fragrance or parfum. And it's actually legal here in the US to put that on the label, but not actually disclose what that scent is comprised of,
Right.
because
Okay.
it's considered a trade secret.
Uh-huh.
So always look for transparency around fragrances, and especially, and then looking at preservatives. And then after that, I definitely look at petrochemicals as the next
Mhm.
big offender, just because of their also strong association with endocrine disruption.
Yeah.
And they're everywhere.
Mhm.
Propylene glycol is a very common ingredient that's a petrochemical, that's used as filler in tons and tons of beauty products. Propylene glycol, anything that starts with a PEG or a PPG. And then after that, then I start looking at some other classes that may not necessarily be harmful to fertility, but might not be great for cumulative exposure and
Yeah.
long-term health. So
Mhm.
I do have on our website, I have a page, um, the ingredients tab that links to like our no-go list. And then for our baby care products, we have a full ingredient glossary of every ingredient we use, its rating, why it's used in formulas, its benefits, and what products you'd find it in. So ingredient transparency is huge for me for health reasons, and then also allergenic reasons.
Yeah.
Allergies are more common in the modern world. So for me, it's important not only for people's health in terms of potential exposure to things, but also just being aware that allergies are
Mhm.
more and more common.
100%. And what about for people who might be newly pregnant, nervous, or have children? Why is it also, so important to prioritize clean living and non-toxic products?
Yeah, so I've thought about this a lot, especially as a millennial mom myself. We had all this stuff as
Hmm.
kids, right? We had everything packaged in plastic. We had all of the like the Capri Suns. That's like a core memory. We used all the Johnson and Johnson baby products. Our parents
Absolutely.
use all these
Talcum
things.
powder. Yep.
Yeah, like our parents just, they didn't know what they didn't know. It
Yeah.
wasn't really popular knowledge back then. And so, I can't do anything about prior exposure, but what I can do for myself now is to make smarter choices going forward. And then I'm also giving my kids the gift of, they have a lower cumulative exposure for their over their lifetime. Again, it's not about, oh no, they touched the talcum powder once, what
Mm,
happens? Not that we have any in our house, we don't, but I get to I get to give them the gift of a lower toxic load through these products because I know better. So then my parents knew, and we as a society know better. So I'm doing better for them. So I think it's really helpful when you have kids to be able to rest a little easy. Like I'm doing my part, and, on a macro scale, I'm voting for, politicians that prioritize environmental and climate health, because that also is a big determinant of my kids' health in the future.
yeah.
And then during pregnancy, I know a lot of people are scared about everything, especially if you've been through loss. You're scared to do,
Mm-hmm.
to eat the
100%.
wrong thing,
Hmm.
to put the wrong thing on your skin. It's, oh, if I'm stressed, am I going to give my baby anxiety?
Yeah.
Like I had all these
Yeah.
thoughts.
Exactly. What are the
I
negative feelings doing?
Yeah, it's like you tend to overthink everything. So that's why it's great to control the easy stuff. You
Hmm.
can be mindful about your personal care products. You can be mindful about your nutrition during pregnancy without overdoing it. Like if you're craving a cookie, it's okay. The world isn't going to collapse if you have a cookie. Um, the biggest thing for pregnant people to avoid is, of course, going to be like retinols. And I know a lot of people who have struggled with acne are scared to stop using. There's nothing worse than feeling probably nauseous and exhausted because you're pregnant, and then also feeling a lack of confidence if you're having a breakout because you're not using your typical skincare.
Yeah.
So we have a couple products that are great and pregnancy safe just for acneic prone skin. They're called the Clear Skin Potion and the Illuminating Tonic, and both use active
Okay.
ingredients that are safe for pregnancy and for breastfeeding.
Yeah.
So that can be a great alternative for retinols.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's nice to be able to control your controllables, try to let go of the rest, and know that you have ways to care for your skin and hair and feel confident
Hmm.
in that process of growing a little human, and um, just setting your kids up for better health than we had, because we just didn't know back in,
Absolutely.
when we were being raised. We just, Johnson and Johnson was the big name. That's what our
Yeah.
parents bought.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then in terms of clean beauty, what are some of the easy skincare and hair care swaps that people can make? You just mentioned skincare, which
Hmm.
is fascinating because I have a friend who was talking about just that, going
Hmm.
into IVF and being concerned about what she was taking and needing something else, but not knowing what was safe to take. Any other thoughts?
Yeah. So I would say the first easiest products to switch would be anything that's a leave on product. So anything that's you're not washing off, you're obviously having a higher exposure to. So it's better to, if you want to, go in priority. I always say run through what you're using first, as long as it's safe for pregnancy. So as long as there's no, retinols in it, run through what you're using, and then switch, thinking about like
Mm-hmm.
moisturizers, treatment products.
Mm-hmm.
For hair care, your styling products, especially since most of them use synthetic fragrance. Um, so any kind of leave on product, a lotion for the body, those would be what I would say to switch first, just because it's longer exposure, more likely to have more systemic effects. And then once you've switched those, then you can switch to the wash off products. So things like a shampoo, a facial wash, things like that. So I try to put it in those two categories just so that it's less
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming. I think it's really easy to think, okay, I need to throw everything away and start from
Yeah.
scratch.
Yeah.
And it just, the stress and the overwhelm from that does more harm than the good of switching. So I always say, take it one step at a time, prioritize by what's being left on, what's being washed off, and give yourself grace through the process. You don't have to scrap everything to get the benefits of switching. And again, since we're considering, cumulative lifetime exposure, if you use up that product that you have that's not great for 2 weeks before you can make a switch, it's not the end of the world. It's better than just wasting more plastic. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? So I try to
Definitely.
give people grace in that process.
And like once again, if anyone is new here, then please do head to our link in bio because Gabi, founder of Bright Body, is giving away credit for all of your product range, $200 a month for the next 6 months, which really will set you up
Yes.
for excellent, clean, non-toxic living. So fabulous opportunity there. And what sets Bright Body products apart from others on the market when people are looking at formulation, for example? And who would you say can benefit from your incredible range of products?
Yeah, so there's several things that set us apart. The first is that formulation philosophy. So we use a mix of plant-based ingredients. We do have kind of an Ayurvedic influence. Ayurveda
Mhm.
is India's system of traditional medicine. It's kind of like China is to Chinese medicine as India is to Ayurveda. So we use a lot of Ayurvedic herbal ingredients and extracts as well, alongside the safest synthetic. So again, it's all about that performance without compromising your safety. I think a
Mhm.
lot of people have this notion that, oh, well, if it's a clean product or if it's a earth conscious product, then it's not going to feel as good. But I'm definitely trying to break that myth and help people realize that you don't have to choose between safety and performance and sustainability. And to sustainability, we package everything. You can probably see some of it behind
Yeah,
me in
yeah.
aluminum bottles and in glass jars and bottles as well. And then we offer, I can reach one for one right here. We offer refills in these little foil
Mhm.
pouches. And then once you have 3 or more empty pouches, we send a prepaid shipping label. So you can send the empties back to us and then we process them using a TerraCycle box. So we're as low waste as possible, minimal
Brilliant.
plastic. Pretty much the only plastic is the closures. Like you can't really get a non-plastic pump yet, unfortunately, and then they're
Yeah.
also very expensive. um, but yeah, we're trying to do our part sustainability wise with packaging and also with, again, sourcing for both safety and sustainability. So those are the main things that set us apart. And then we also donate 1% of our sales year round to the Center for Reproductive Rights. So as a mom who went through recurrent loss, I had an ectopic pregnancy that I had an abortion for. I feel really, really strongly that reproductive rights are everything. You know, it
Mm.
encompasses
Mhm.
everything that we need to live in safe and
Yeah,
sustainable communities with or without children.
yeah.
And so we donate 1% of our sales year round to that cause. I also like to say, you know, reproductive rights are a prefix menu, it's not a la carte. And so for anyone going through IVF, IUI, you know that the full spectrum of care, I mean, you use birth control often as part of prepping for
Mhm.
IVF. And
Yeah.
abortion often has to be part of care if you have an
Mhm.
ectopic pregnancy. So we feel really strongly about leading with our values there.
Mhm.
And then every July, we donate 5% of our sales to Plastic
Wow.
Oceans International.
Oh.
So we have a really strong philanthropic focus. I think, you know, being a millennial, that's that's just how I'm wired. But overall, our formulation philosophy, our commitment to sustainability, and our philanthropy set us apart. And I always joke, you know, if you have skin and hair or you have kids that have skin and hair, then you can benefit. As long as you jibe with our values and our approach with sustainability, you know, you're welcome here. We know that we're not for everyone in terms of how we donate our, you know, some of our sales, but we would rather be in alignment with the greater good than be people pleasers.
Yeah, amazing.
So, yeah.
Amazing. That really is incredible what you do and how much you give back. And how, well, you just mentioned about the refill system and how that benefits people because it's putting back into the industry and making sure that obviously everything is going to a good cause without being wasteful.
Mhm.
Um, I just want to remind everyone to please head to our link in bio to enter this incredible giveaway for 6 months worth of $200 per month, which keeps, rolls over to any of the products that we've been discussing across the Bright Body range. So thank you so much,
My
Gabby. Thanks
pleasure.
to those who have been watching and watching back. Is there anything else you want to share with us?
I don't think so. So, I mean, it's basically a total of $1,200 worth of products over the course of 6 months, and you can mix and match between skincare, hair care for grown-ups, and also our products for babies and littles. And the other thing I always like to mention is if you use the baby products as an adult, it won't turn you into a baby. It's okay. So I have a lot of families who will share the same bottle of Everywhere lotion, and they all use it after the shower, or they share the head to toe wash. I know I do with my husband and my boys. We all use the head to toe wash as like a body wash. So there's definitely some overlap there, and a lot of older kids, toddlers, younger school age kids will use the baby products as well. They're just designed first and foremost for sensitive skin, so they're all available unscented as well as
Mhm.
scented options. Whereas most of the products for grown-ups, we have small, like safe concentrations of essential oils only. So we don't use any synthetic fragrance on purpose for obvious reasons, as we've already discussed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really excited
Amazing.
to get to connect
Amazing.
with your audience. And I know what it's like to go through infertility, pregnancy after loss, traumatic birth, parenting multiples. I've kind of had a little taste of it all. And
Mm.
if you're in that, know that you're not alone, and to let yourself feel however you feel about it. I think the worst advice I ever got was just stay positive,
Mm.
because what is that?
Mm.
So give yourself permission to
100%.
feel, yeah, give yourself permission to feel how you feel, and
Yeah.
one foot in front of the other.
Great advice. Thank you so much,
My
Gabby.
pleasure.
Urge everyone to head to our link in bio now to take advantage of this opportunity. And really keen to learn more about the products, and to sort of change someone's life for the better, and to be getting the message out here, because it's amazing what you do. And
Thank
clean
you.
living is something that so many people resonate with, especially on this road to becoming parents and for, you know, pregnancy and into having young kids, etc.
Hmm.
Thank you so much, Gabby, for your
Thanks,
time, and
Eloise.
thanks for joined. All right, thanks everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.